Therefore, I think one of the keys and an area in which we should contribute is not just plans, which are often welfare-oriented and may be mere palliative solutions to try and moderate the results of crisis. We should also implement policies in which heads of household, whether men or women, can again get well-paid and decent work. What better encouragement can there be, what better education can there be for a kid than that which they can get in a home in which there are resources, there is security, their children can be sent to school, and they can eat with their families. One of the matters that particularly used to catch our attention and that really hurt us, it was painful to see back in 2003 when we took office, was to see the number of children that ate in the schools. Schools had become eating halls for children. The role of schools not actually being to give food, but to give education, to teach. And children used to eat at schools because their parents back home didn't have jobs and couldn't feed them. So one of the clues and one of the objectives we have set ourselves as an essential one during this administration has been, and Jeffrey will understand this, to build a macroeconomic model that could again give work to Argentine people. In Argentina, the unemployment rate had reached almost 25% at one point. A quarter of the population was out of work. Obviously, their children were adrift. So one of the keys was precisely to give work back to the Argentine people. And now, with unemployment at 7.8%, which we still want to bring down further, and with the highest wages for workers in relative terms for all of Latin America, over $400 minimum wage, and an average wage of over $700, with a difference of 53% between both ends, which is the ratio that is normally in developed countries between the minimum wage and the average wage. This makes it possible to improve the quality of life of the people. And of course, you also need plans for this, because you can't reach out to all regions in the same way or offer the same quality everywhere. So the government, through federal, provincial, and municipal agencies, provides assistance through programs focusing on maternal health, on lactation programs, on young pregnant women, on food programs, particularly for those who haven't yet been reached by economic growth, because we know that there can be economic growth and a redistribution of income, but there are sectors that were long left out of the productive system and were unable to develop skills to find jobs. So we now find the paradox that we sometimes have a demand for employees that can't be met because there aren't enough skilled employees or workers to take them. So we need to tackle these issues related to children, to youth, and to better employment opportunities. In Argentina, we are working intensively on all of these fronts. In my view, we should also bear in mind the need to change a model which prevailed for several decades in Latin America and which also aimed at the disappearance of the state, of government, and leaving everything for the market to solve. Part of the problems we have in Latin America have to do with the fact that we accepted wholesale that theory that the government, the state had to disappear and that the market would solve everything. But the market doesn't give early encouragement or stimulation to children. It doesn't give jobs to parents who don't have jobs. The state must be there. It has an indelible task to accomplish, and that is irreplaceable. Many of the things we see in today's contemporary world, even here at the center of the world's largest economy, show that non-intervention by the state is a fiction. As I said yesterday during my address at the UN, This coincides with the greatest state intervention in memory in this country, I would say. And probably Jeffrey will agree with me. So I'm here, very pleased to be here, to raise the profile of these problems, which are often regarded as something exotic, something from distant locations, from emerging countries, from countries which you only hear about in the news when children die from malnutrition or when there's some kind of climate disaster which wreaks havoc on cities, homes, and houses. But the big responsibility incumbent upon us as leaders chosen democratically, freely, and universally by our peoples is even greater, because there were policies implemented in Latin America which led to major social tragedies. But we shouldn't only blame the authors of the Washington Consensus for this. There were also our own nationals in each of our countries which bought these theories, which bought these models, and the result is very serious social problems in Latin America, which we must continue to work on and approach, always in the belief that we must coordinate all efforts between the state, between NGOs like Alice, and also involving the private sector. It has finally been discovered, and many are starting to see this in Latin America, that social cohesion also brings wealth. Having an educated society, having a developed society, having skilled human resources which have been trained and have learned and also lived in health brings more welfare and better welfare to societies. Allow me to thank you all for your attention. I would like to thank Shakira and Alejandro for having set this initiative in motion. I would like to thank an economist like Jeffrey Sachs as well. Economists have a reputation for not caring about these things. So it's good to find economists who do care for children and early stimulation. This is quite a find in a world in which economists only talk about country risk ratings, and this really points to him being a man not only with sensibility, but also with intelligence. I always say that we don't need just good economists or good business people. We need intelligent economists and business people. The rest will come on its own. So again, thank you. And we are committed with Shakira, with Alejandro, with all of you to take this early stimulation program to the Ibero-American Summit to be held in El Salvador. And we all should pledge to make sure that the policies of states take into account children, men, women, in other words, human beings, so that the center of politics again becomes the human being. Thank you.
A couple of the leaders have to leave us at this point because there are many meetings at the United Nations, as you know. Thank you for the wonderful statement, President Kirchner, bringing in the macroeconomics and the issues of inequality, very, very important. It's my pleasure to ask next El Presidente de Panama. Muchas gracias.